Well, everyone, and welcome into a socially distanced production here at the WJHI studios. It's our first football coaches show of the 2021 season. I am Clay Abels. Joining me today, our student host, Rafe Swearingen, and also Jeffersonville football player, and our head coach of the Jeffersonville football program, Mr. Isaac Parker. How are we doing today, sir?
Excellent. Appreciate you guys having me. I always enjoy being on.
I'm glad to have you back in. The last time we had you in here at the studios was right after a sectional title victory, able to pick one up, and now we're back at the start of the 2021 season. Let's start there. How excited are you just to get back, have some normalcy? I talked to Mr. Loeffner earlier today, and he mentioned just seeing a full capacity stadium, enjoyment for him as superintendent. How great was it for you, first game versus Seymour, having the full crowd back, being back to normal?
It was fun. It was fun to get back on the field. Again, we definitely missed the fans last year. It was obvious that that the fans were empty. They're such an important part of our game. But I think just for the boys, just getting back on the field again, that promise that with all these difficulties over the summer, and at the beginning, we're still back on the field, and I think that's what's important for us. And it always feels good to be back. That's my home. That's my sanctuary. So.
Well, the first thing I'll ask you before I send it over to Rafe is when we look at game one, beating Seymour, great opener, started off on a 34-0 roll. You had the crowd going crazy early on. Talk about how did you all establish the tone early on, especially on the ground game? It seems like you were really able to make an impact early.
We knew going into the season that our backfield was good. Zion Manfield, he's a lot of child. He's a tough kid to tackle. You get that head of steam going at you, and I'll pick Zion, any day of the week. And of course, then you get Jared Tyson, who's more of a slippery type back, who more your traditional back probably so. And they're both extremely talented. We knew going into that it was going to be a good night for us. We've set some goals prior to with each of those players, and they're well on their way to meeting their goals.
Coach, at the beginning of the season, there was a big wrench thrown into the plans. A major quarantine happened, taking out a few scrimmages towards the beginning of the year, and even the first game of the season. Have you bounced back and gone 1-0 with such a tough start to the season?
It was tough. When you look at our total overall number of players, we were sub 50% going into week one, and that included young men and women from all ages, all classes. So we were went in. We knew we were going to be short-staffed going into it, but we had enough bodies going in. We felt like we had enough talent going in to compete, and that was kind of the goal to compete. And the way it started just took off. But that start was rough. It was kind of a little bit of a. We're Jeffersonville. I said it last year. We learned to deal with adversity, and that's what we did again. We dealt with adversity. We dealt with it, and got to put that game behind us. Got to make sure the young men stay focused and move on to the next week. So.
As we look more into the first game, we talked about 34-0 start for you guys. Really got off on a roll. Then things started to change. I know you had to put some backups in. Looking at that game, we saw 3 onside kicks go against your way, and the final score being Jeff 47, Seymour 36. What changed to let Seymour come back in the game, and what do you all need to adjust?
With the limited practices that we had going in, we knew physically that our tanks were not going to be as deep as they would be, if we wouldn't have had the quarantine. So we knew we were going to have to dip into the bench a little bit earlier than what we expected, more than we wanted. But when we were able to jump out 34-0, I think that kind of gave us a green light to try to halt put a stop to any potential exertion injuries. So we probably went to the bench a little earlier than we wanted, and hoping that they could finish out the game for us. And you talk about the opportunity to develop depth. When you get these young men and women that don't generally get a chance to play on a Friday night, they're generally our Saturday players, which they competed great last weekend too. I'm really pleased with them. But they got the opportunity to get Friday night reps, and that's important. So it was a good opportunity for us to develop depth.
For you with the team, Coach, I know as we look ahead, we'll talk about the Bedford game and some of the things that is going to be added to the team this year. But one big addition I want to talk about here at the start of the show is the kicking game. You've made a big change, adding Hannah Magruder and Addison Duran. Addison's in our program here at WJHI. Saw you had some successful PATs and kickoffs to open up. Talk about that change. I know you've been really ahead in a lot of areas. When Coach Hurd was here before she left, hiring her as the first female assistant coach. Talk about what you're trying to add to this community with Jeffersonville football. It's
inclusive. Anybody that has a desire to play, that's willing to put forth effort, put forth work, and abide by the guidelines of our program is more than welcome. Hannah stepped in and she exceeded our expectations week one. We expected to see some butterflies. I think her first kick wasn't her most solid. Her second one she did miss. But from there out, she was perfect. And I think once she got her nerves down, we saw the same young lady that had a hat trick the night before in a soccer game stepped out and goes 5 of 6 in her first football game from PAT. You can't ask for anything else.
Coach, talking about some new players on the field and new faces, there's also some new faces behind the scenes too. Talking about Coach Carter, Coach Kep, and Coach Maddox. These are all coaches first year with the program. How are they helping out the team and you?
Oh, they're phenomenal. They bring a lot of energy, a lot of knowledge of the game of football. I know that they've all coached in the past. Coach Kep, he's actually from Las Vegas. Played football at Union College. Ended up leaving Union when he graduated. Went back to Vegas and coached a couple years of high school ball up there before he made his way back here. I think his future bride brought him back to Jeffersonville. Coach Maddox. Coach Maddox been around Jeffersonville for a long time. He's been a wrestling coach, long-time wrestling coach. He's also an MMA coach. So he's coaching's in his blood. It's what he does for a living. So we adding him was a no-brainer. He has a very large football IQ when it comes to that D-line play. And then Coach Carter. Coach Carter is a former head coach out of Missouri. He came to this area with his family lives in this area, and he started coaching track. We bumped into Coach Carter and headed off, and again another guy with a really high football IQ and somebody that's motivational and has a good attitude and brings energy to practice every day. It's a no-brainer.
Last thing I want to ask you, Coach, before we jump ahead and look at the Bedford game on Friday. Having the win last year with sectionals, I saw it really built up the football program and the fan base around here. Everybody really jumped on board. How much has that win last year have you seen make a difference in terms of support and then also from the standpoint of getting coverage? I know Friday last week we were able to be the first school in Southern Indiana to get the first multi-camera radio TV broadcast. Got a lot of views for the streams out there as well, so people supporting, watching from different states. What does that do for you and the support of your program to see it just keep boosting up so quickly?
We love WJHI's. They seem to never. You guys seem never to be just displeased with the way things are. You're always striving for the best, and I think that's important. That in everything we do in life, we don't set a ceiling, and you guys definitely have not. You continue to grow and become the first. You hear that regularly associated with WJHI. Yeah, but what it is important is that it's important to get our brand out there. It's important to get, there are some people still that are even a little bit uncomfortable with coming out, and being in that mass setting, and I respect that as well. They were able to watch our game, and not just watch our game, from the standpoint of hey, here's our game film from one angle watching the game, but they got to see every area of the game. They get to see it, it's a professional production is what it is. That's huge, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to lie to you. I found myself watching your all stream instead of our game film. So
we're gonna have to make it pay-per-view then. Well, Coach, let's look. We appreciate the compliment. I want to look ahead here. You have Bedford this week. Last year really was the turning point. That Bedford game when you all won 20-19. That's when you guys found the hot streak, ran through sectionals, and had that glory last year. What are we seeing with Bedford this year? Or how much of a different team are they, and how much of a different team are you as you face off in week 2?
Well, I think from our standpoint, I'll speak from that first, is we're definitely more confident. That was the beginning of our run. And I say more confident. I think the young men had confidence. They were just trying to piece it together last year. They were just trying to find our flow. And in this situation, it's kind of ironic. We're in that same boat again, where we're trying to find our flow following, the quarantine. But we are a different team. I think the biggest difference is the off season we had. Our off season was phenomenal. It's my first off season as a head coach. We were able to actually work out in January, February, March, April, May, June, and July. We did miss February, but we had an off season, and I think we're coming to the field substantially stronger. We had spring ball. It's the first time we've had spring ball, so we were able to get out there and again start implementing what we were trying to do, what the schematic changes that we wanted to make, and I think that's where we're better and different than last year. As far as them, they do have a new head coach this year. I believe it was their defensive coordinator, Coach Derek Barker, took over. Nice guy. I've talked to him on a couple of occasions. Nice guy. I know that their defense is going to be well coached. I know their offense, they've kind of switched things up a little bit, and they were able to hang 34 points, I think it was, on Bloomington North last week. So we know they have potential to score against good defenses. But I have the utmost faith and trust in our defensive coordinator, Josh Schindler. The guys, you won't find somebody more passionate about the game of football or just life in general than you will Coach Shin. But he is I feel really good about our game plan this week.
Coach, what are you seeing in this new batch of players as opposed to last year's players? In practice, some people can usually say, cut from a different cloth. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, I look at this is the first the first group of our nucleus that fought through an entire offseason and understands that the offseason is actually harder than the season itself. It'd be the equivalent of going and working a job for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, and not getting your first paycheck until after that 10 month, which would be your Friday nights. And their willingness to do that, and it's it's something that it started with year one, that group of seniors back in 19, so the 2020 seniors, I guess it would be. It started with them. They were tossed around from coach to coach, and they started to buy in what we were doing. And that took us into the last year's team, the 21 seniors, and they had to deal with COVID and they missed their off season. But again, still trying to buy into that. And then we get to the group this year, and it seems that they've got it figured out. And I think that our the program that we want, even though we would have loved to have this to been our third off season, I think that we're definitely seeing us moving in that right direction.
Coach, I know these last year and a half, and especially even now, more than any group, probably a team around the school, having to deal with quarantines, just because it's such a big body of kids. But I want to talk about, besides kids coming back from quarantine specifically, talk about the man to my left here. In addition to the team, you'll have Rafe Swearinger on, transferring over from Floyd Central from last year. I know that's a big add for you. He came over here for WJHI to be a part of our student radio TV program, but he's also going to play football. Talk about, what does Rafe add to the team for you this year, as he'll get his first chance to play against Bedford?
Well, you got to cover your ears for this one, Ron. Now, Rafe, Rafe, when he stepped in initially, I wanted to give him a rep at quarterback. Quarterbacks is what he was looking at when he transferred in. And we had a competition between Rafe and, of course, Cole, our returning starter, and Nick Schindler, who's a sophomore. And Rafe went through and took summer reps at quarterback for pretty much majority of the summer. We get to a 7-on-7, and he comes to me and says, "Hey, Coach, can I try playing safety?" And I went, absolutely, you can try playing safety, give it a shot. And that's when I learned, that was probably the first time that I actually got a glimpse into Rafe, that this kid just loves football. He wants to be on the football field. He wants to play. He has fun. So what he brings to us is he brings an attitude that's at times lighthearted, however, has a very firm leadership role. Our team's embraced him as a leader, not just as a senior, but as a leader of our team. He's very physical from that safety spot, and he's also going to get a lot of reps for us at A-back. At X, our wide receiver spot. It's Rafe brings he brings a lot of discipline to the team. He brings, again, just leadership as a whole.
With him, I know adding to the team has been a big addition. I know for you, it's certainly, like you said, the momentum has built a ton from last year with that sectional championship. One of the things I know is huge in your mind is focus. You want to stay focused game by game. Tough thing to do this week. I know Bedford's certainly a formidable opponent, but it seems like everybody around here, including the players, anybody, you're always looking down the road to that Floyd Central, New Albany games. How do you keep your team focused as a coach week by week to say, hey, we're in the moment here. Don't worry about Floyd Central 2 weeks from now. Don't worry about New Albany 3 weeks from now. We just need to stay here today.
We to add to the potential of loss of focus, we lost our practice Monday, due to an issue with the school with the weather that came in. That does add to it. But what we try to do is we try to set those short-term goals. We do have long-term season goals. We have the goals of we want to repeat as sectional champions. We're going to be the first ever regional championship team. Those are all things that we have put together, and from that point, let's finish the season out. Let's make our run. But we set those short-term goals, and those short-term goals are to go 1-0 each week. That's our goal. Actually, that's a lie. Our goal is to go 2-0 to 3-0 each week, depending on if we have a JV and freshman or just a JV. But our goal is to go undefeated each week, and we can't go undefeated this week if we're focused 5 weeks from now. You look at our schedule top to bottom, and we don't have an off week. From the beginning of the season to the end of the season, we play a lot of talented opponents that see us week in and week out, year in and year out, and we don't have the luxury of looking ahead. We have to be right there, and I think the young men get it for the most part. So,
last thing, Coach, I want to ask you here as we wrap up, the mentality of the team. I know last year it was much different. It felt like all year long you guys were pushing uphill, whether it was with COVID or having a rough start to the season, getting everybody healthy, and then things changed. You've moved up, you won the sectionals, as we mentioned. How does the mindset from you as a coach change, or does it change at all, going from the underdog to now you're looked at as one of the favorites with New Albany and Floyd Central expected to win a sectional championship this year? How does that change from your mindset as a coach and how to implement that on your players?
Well, probably I don't remember the man's name who made this quote initially, but I love it and I went on to it, that the biggest enemy of continued success is success. When you sit back and think about it, it makes perfect sense. The program doesn't change. The program is what it is. It's the program. I'm just blessed enough to be part of that program and to be the face of that program right now. But nothing changes. I mean, it is what it is. Our goals don't change. Last year's season was great, but again, we can't live off of last year's successes. We have to focus on this year and continue to growth on that. We do have the luxury of making some tweaks. We were able to see what was efficient, what wasn't efficient. There's a lot of note taking that takes place during the season, both by myself and the assistant coaches, and we try to flip things around and make those small changes that are going to make us more efficient and more successful. But overall, nothing changes. The program still is what it is, and as long as the program governs our decisions and what we do, we'll be okay.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming in, and best of luck on Friday. Look forward to having you in next week.
Appreciate you, Rafe. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
See you this afternoon.
That is Coach Isaac Parker of Jeffersonville football joining us here today, along with our student guest, Rafe Swearinger, here with WJHI. I'm Clay Abel, signing off from the WJHI studios with our first football coaches show with Coach Isaac Parker. If you'd like to rewatch this program, you can see it on cable 184, along with on the radio at 98.5 FM and WJHI.com. We'll have the audio for you, and then as well online on our WJHI Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Check it out. We'll have it on social media for you as well. For Coach Parker and Mr. Swearingen, I am Clay Abel saying so long here today from the WJHI studios. This is 98.5 WJHI LP Jeffersonville, home of the Red Devil Network.